morning,
Okay.
everyone. Good morning, and welcome to this week's edition of the
Great.
Collaborative
I lost my
U. I'm
iPad.
correspondent D. Thea Aldridge, and I'm super excited. Today we
You're
have
gonna. You,
millionaire businessman Ed Hoffman with us this morning. Welcome to the Collaborative U, Mr. Hoffman. Can you hear me?
oh, you know how to flatter me. Thank you so much. Yes, I can hear you fine.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Many people
Oh,
have taken a look at the flyer and they know that you're a part of our upcoming Birthing Your Greatness Summit. And so we wanted to introduce you to our platform, introduce you to our people before you get on there and wow them with your master class next week. So welcome to the Collaborative UTV, where we inspire, educate, and empower our people to do great in their business and in their lives. So let's just jump right in, okay? I know that in reading your bio and taking a look at your website, that you have an amazing rags to riches story. Can you kind of take us through that that particular story?
well, um, talking about myself is sometimes really easy, and then sometimes it's really difficult um, because we all have interesting stories, and
Right.
we all have our own, maybe not physical, but emotional or spiritual rags to riches also. So I
Right.
think it's important that all of us have to see our development and how everything in our past, maybe a rough childhood or this or what or a handicap of some kind, helps develop us to who we are. And I'll tell you my story. Basically, my rags to riches story is I hitchhiked into Houston. I had to leave New York because it was getting. Let's put it this way: there was a lot of people that didn't want me there anymore, and if they would have found me, they wouldn't have been happy. They would have been happy finding me, but I would have been happy if they found me. So I left. I hitchhiked cross Canada. Took a year and a half. Hitchhiked into Houston. I had $34 in my pocket.
Wow.
I remember laying it on a on a stoop and putting my money and putting rocks on it and counting how much money I had. And I also have had a very healthy addiction. If you can use the word healthy and addiction at the same line, or good addiction, but I had a severe addiction. And basically, my first job was on a construction site. Well, one of my first jobs was on a construction site, and I used to sleep there. It was renovating an apartment complex, and I used to sleep in the apartment when everybody left to go home. I would sneak back in and take my sleeping bag, and I would lay it in the vacant apartment because most vacant apartments still had hot and cold running water, and I'd have to spray Raid around it to keep the roaches and fleas from jumping on me. And I'd sleep there, and then I'd wake up, roll everything up, and the boss was always so impressed that I was the first one at work every day because I slept there. He didn't know I was sleeping there. But
Wow.
I slept there, and I'd wake up and take a shower and hide my stuff in the closet, and then I go and wait for him to show up. And he was so impressed by me that when the job was done, he invited me to be his assistant, his helper as a carpenter. And um, my job there was I had three tools. I had a shovel, I had a wheelbarrow, and I had a sledgehammer. And I
Wow.
spent about 2 months knocking down this cinder block wall every day. And I would just go there and smoke a little and knock down this wall and put in a wheelbarrow and go to the dumpster. And I did that for months. And he was really impressed by my work ethic. He said, Ed, because he invited me to be his assistant, carpenter, and I didn't know anything. And and I made friends there with guys, and they had the tool belt with the skill saws and the extension cords and pickup trucks, and I had nothing but a bag of clothes. And he said, well, and I always get really emotional about it because he was like one of the few people in my life that acknowledged that I was worthy. He said, Ed, you have the best work ethic if anybody here, because you have the worst job. He says it's easy if you're, if you're, it's like you're a doctor and you go out to eat. Oh, what are you? I'm a doctor. But if you're a garbage man or you're this, you're that, to walk around with your shoulders back and do a good job, it's a lot more difficult. So he acknowledged that about me. And I, just started working. And one thing led into another. And I started a business with my two hands, working out of the patio of my apartment with a pickup truck, and built a multi-million-dollar corporation. I had almost 50 people working underneath me, and sold it to a private acquisitions firm for millions of dollars.
Wow.
And it was, I want to tell everybody listening, if you want to own your own business, you have no concept of how hard you have to work. If you think you're going to sit at Starbucks and bang on a computer and make money, you're crazy. And if you don't want to make that sacrifice, don't do it. Because to own your own business, you have to be practically unemployable, which I was practically unemployable, or crazy. Because you have to work the first 3 to 5 years. If you're not waking up with nightmares about different customers and cash flow and this and that, you're not working hard enough. If you can go to sleep every night and have this wonderful sleep and then go and play tennis and do this and think you're going to own a company that's successful, you're crazy. You're crazy. Because it doesn't work that way. If you watch Shark Tank, you listen to all the people. I look at Damien, worked out of his mom's basement and worked with one sewing machine, or anybody. The sacrifices that you have to do. Now, I grew up working hard, and I grew up working for free from my father. My pay was my food and my clothes, and any tips I could make. There was no, bicycle for Christmas stuff where I grew up. It was you wanted something, you worked for it. And I really feel that if you want to own your own business, you better be prepared to outwork anybody else. There's a great show called The Last Dance by Michael Jordan on Netflix. And he was talking to his coach in college. I don't know, I think the coach was talking, forgot the exact scenario. But he said, oh, I want to be the best player on the team. And the coach goes, well, what are you doing about it? He says, I'm practicing with the team. And the coach says, you're just going to be as good as anybody else. And he realized that he has to practice twice as much to be the best one on the team. And if you want to own a business in a competitive market, you're going to have to outwork your competition. It's just simple. You literally have to put in the time.
Absolutely. And thank you so much
I can't hear you.
Oh, you can't hear me?
I can't hear you.
Let me try to turn it up a little bit. Is this better?
I can't hear her.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me now? Oh, you can't hear me. Okay. Well, un momento.
So far, so good. There we go. We got some feedback there.
Is that better?
That's better, but I still have now I have a lot of static and echo. Oh, let's see what happens now.
How about that?
Better.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, is that better?
So, yeah, that's great.
Great. Okay.
So,
I was making a comment. I wanted to say thank you, first of all, for sharing that part of your story. I totally can relate, because when I think about, where I come from, it shows your level of humbleness, because you still feel the emotion of it. So first, thank you so much for sharing that part. But I wanted to touch on something that you said, because a lot of people see, okay, millionaire business owner, but they don't know that most millionaire business owners, most people who are in a certain place in their lives now, they did have a struggle. They did have a time and a season in which they worked for free, in which they worked long, strenuous hours. They did put in that sweat equity, as they call it, in the very beginning. So I'm really thankful that you brought that up, because most people think that you can just jump in, you have your laptop, you buy your signs, you get your banner, you get your friend, and doggone it, I done did it.
Yeah, they all think that the boss, won the lottery, and somehow, he doesn't work that hard. They don't see it. They don't see the stress, and how to be great, you have to be able to take the stress. There are so many basketball players that play the whole game, but why does Michael Jordan get the ball with 10 seconds left? Because he enjoys the stress. He enjoys the challenge. And if you don't have that deep-rooted tenacity, like you're not going to go, I'm not going to lose, then you'll be successful. Maybe. And you might fail, but if you have the tenacity, you'll pick back up, you'll start another gig. And then someday, the churches, the great stories of Colonel Fried Chicken guy. He didn't become a millionaire until he was 86.
Right.
And now, God knows who's got all the money now, but, he killed himself till he was in his 70s trying to get his deal going.
Absolutely. So, looking at your history, some would say, okay, you built a company during a different time, and things now have changed. What do you say to that?
I say that you could say that about every generation, every decade. I mean, look about it. You got a phone now. I mean, it used to be, you'd get messages, these little pink things, and you'd have to call people back, and they would never. Now you can shoot an email to someone that's in Colorado or, Russia, and they can get back with you. You have to adapt with the environment. I don't even care. We're not even talking about every week. The business environment changes, and successful companies. There's a great story between Fujifilm and Kodak that I recommend people Googling. I don't want to tell you the whole story, but it talked about how two different companies one did evolve, one didn't evolve. And that's why Kodak went bankrupt after being the dominant, in all the Olympics, they were dominant, but they didn't evolve. So no matter what your business format is, it's going to have to evolve. But if you think the same song is going to get you paid, it's not going to happen. I mean, there's a constant adaptation. And that's what makes victories in everything. Maybe sports, guys that come back to lose, that come back, maybe in war, maybe in business. I mean, look how Donald Trump became president. The guy was never a politician, but he adapted to the environment, and he saw through a different lens, and that's why he's a billionaire, because he looked at something and goes, all right, no one's playing this. They're still playing the song the same way. He came in, and I'm not trying to talk politics. I'm just talking out of he looked at it as a business. He looked at it as a strategic business that he wanted to buy, let's say, the presidency or become the president. And he strategically beat the most powerful, probably since Roosevelt, one of the most powerful political machines, which is the Clintons. I mean, he kicked her butt, and on paper, he was never supposed to do that. Everybody laughed at him. But because he adapted with the time, and she was still doing politics as if it was 15 years ago, before Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all the social media, she got murdered because she thought one way, and he was a visionary, and he adopted. And that was probably one of the most extraordinary feats of someone evolving with the environment that has ever been done in American history, I think. If you really look at American politics, but
Right.
That's just the way you have to look at it. I'm not trying to talk politics. I'm just talking about how a man who had no political experience was able to adapt. So I don't want to hear that. If you want to win, you figure it out, or you hire business coaches. And that's one of my strengths is I have ADD off the chart. Everybody knows me, but if people that know me know that you can go in a room and have 10 people in a room, 9 out of 10 will have a very similar answer, and I will come out of left field with a completely abstract answer that most likely is the best answer because the way my mind works. And I have found working with other coaches and other people that I have one mind. If I do collective minds of people I respect that are successful, that can look at a situation with a the expression witnessing. Witnessing is an event that didn't happen to you. So you
Yeah.
have more of an analytical point of view than the person that's losing their company. I have nothing to lose, or someone else, they can look at your company in a very analytical way and go, try this, try that, maybe this, maybe that. So you have to adapt or that's it. I mean,
No, and you brought up a great point, because prior to and I felt the same way about Donald Trump coming in and winning. I was like, oh wow, I don't think people saw that coming. But it was the same thing with Obama. He did something that the people before didn't do, and so I see
right.
what it's really about: evolving in your business, evolving in your style, and not really looking at what the next person is doing, but asking for that specific thing that you can do to be different. So that really brings us into your specialty, which is the Irresistible Company. So tell us a little bit about what an irresistible company is.
To me, an irresistible company is creating an irresistible environment. And what I mean by that, a lot of people go, oh, I'm going to build a team. And I think it's more than a team. And it's a team, let's put it this way. An irresistible company is you're talking about not just your customers, not just your employees, but your CPAs, your lawyers, your landlord, everybody you're around. You create an allure, if that's the right word, an environment of championship and compassion and determination and respect, if that people want to do business with you. When I had my company, I had people wanting to work for my company, waiting for a position. They wanted to work for me. They heard about my company through some friends or people that worked for me, and they wanted to come to work for me. Suppliers, let's say you're on a construction company, other companies want to sell you their product because you pay on time, that you're organized, you don't send orders back, that there's room for the warehouse when the delivery guy gets there. And I'll give you an example of an irresistible situation. So I sold my company to a private acquisitions firm and had a man running it. And 3 months in, the particular product that we were selling was out of stock, all in Houston. Nobody had it, couldn't do it. It could have put him out of business. So my bookkeeper calls me and goes, Ed, what can you do? So I called the sales manager of the company that we needed the supplies from. Now remember, I have not had this company for 3 months. He knows I'm out of the picture. I go, hey, can you do me a favor? I'm in Houston, and he loaded up his truck and drove to Oklahoma, filled it up, and brought it to the new owner. Even though the new owner asked him to do it, he goes, we don't have any, thank you very much, sorry. But because of my relationship with him, my irresistible relationship with him, that even though I didn't own the company, he did more for me than the client that he was going to have to start doing business with.
Wow.
And that's an irresistible company. When you can call your lawyer on Sunday at 6 o'clock and he's happy to talk to you about a particular situation you got Monday morning, and he doesn't charge you or doesn't charge you stupid money. Or when your employees are all working late and they're all laughing and giggling and they're having a good time and they know that they're going to get a big bonus if we can get this, this contract out and we get it. That's an irresistible company. An irresistible company is creating an environment that it's championship. It's like I just watched a basketball game last night with Miami Heat, and they won, and they were down, and they had that environment like we're not going to lose, and everybody was on board. Every single person was on board that we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and everybody's happy to help you do it. Like I said, your lawyers, your suppliers, just that complete environment of attractiveness, the law of attractiveness. And how do you create that?
That's what I was about to. How do you create that? Yeah.
Well, it's very doable, but it takes. Well, when I start working with someone, it's about branding first. And I'll give you an example. The first thing I do is look at the person and I go, okay, who are we selling to? Who's your customer? Who's your employee? So we start with what you look like. You know, a lot of business coaches wear suit and ties and look like bankers. I'm not that guy. I did not go to college and get a degree. I'm a total boots on the ground guy. So I brand myself as that. You know, I got some groovy things that I wear, and I'm little, you know, I wear a Robert Graham shirt, and I'm not the normal business coach because I don't want to be that. So I brand myself that way. And I work with someone, and I'll give you an example. There was a young man that I met, and we moved him up he was selling eyewear at Costco, and he told me he was a salesman. I said, well, are you on commission? He goes, no. I said, then you're not a salesman. So anyway, working with him, he got a better job as a recruiter. And I was looking at the way he dressed. I go, how do you dress? He goes, well, everybody dresses like that. I go, how does the next level dress? So a friend of mine used to work at Saks, and she took him shopping. And I said, we need a budget of $300. We're going to get you a couple of jackets. We're going to get you shoes. We're going to get you this. And we rebranded him into the future. Okay? And the boss saw him all the time looking like one of the other guys. And we made him irresistible. He came in early, worked late. The boss always saw him dressed nice. Even though he was the newest one there, he was the one that got the promotion. Because we created that environment of tomorrow. And with a business, I do the same thing. I look at the boss. I go, okay, we're gonna, you got to be open-minded. We're not. It's like my taste for, let's say, my home might be different than your taste for your business. So I can't sell you your taste. I have to sell you what works for you. And I'll give you another example. I work with business brokers that help people sell their business. And he goes, Ed, this guy needs a tune-up. I want you to go over there and, we'll work something out. The first thing I did is I pulled up, and the parking light stripes were old, and the bushes weren't cut. First thing I do is go restripe the parking lot, cut the hedges, do this, mulch the beds. Okay, open the door, da-da-da-da-da. And he just slowly, gradually, before we even look at the books, before we even look at the numbers, I call it the Wizard of Oz effect. I am one of the huge fans of the movie Wizard of Oz because first thing, it was one of the first black and white color movies ever made. You have to imagine being in 1933 or 34 where no one ever saw a color movie. But now we see, robots and stuff. But imagine 1934, Depression, people were poor. My mom's mother used to throw a nickel out the window for a person singing in the courtyard because he could get a quart of milk and a loaf of bread. So people were that poor. Right. And Dorothy falls in a pit, and then she gets whirled up, and boom, she opens the door, and there's Munchkin Land, Oz, which is full of color and munchkins and dwarfs and all that crazy stuff. And that's what I like to create. I want people to be wowed by you, and I want them to be wowed by your company. And that's all about creating that irresistible effect. Because if someone pulls up for a job interview and the front looks like crap, okay, and they're going to act like that. But if they walk in, wow, this is a nice company. Wow, look at this place. They feel like, oh, I've got a good job. Everybody's like this. Everybody's into it. So you literally create that environment, And that's the beginning of the Irresistible Company. And sure, you have to get the books right, but part of the books is getting the invoices out right to the customer on time. And they're going, wow, it's great doing business with this company. Because, just doing a product doesn't do everything.
Right. As you were describing that, the first company that came to my mind was Chick-fil-A. Like they're an irresistible because they've set everything up to be irresistible, and they only work 6 days a week,
right.
but they typically make more money each year than companies that in their same industry that work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So
Wow.
yeah, I saw that one year and I was like, what? But if you think about it, they make it irresistible. I mean, they get you through that line quickly. They're very friendly. Everybody looks like they are having an amazing time. The place is always clean. So, I mean, what you described, as you were describing it, that's the first thing that popped into my head. But I love what you said. The first place you look is the branding. Like what do people, because first impressions are always important, right? First impressions are lasting. What, without going in too deep, because I know this is just an interview, and just a shameless plug, you're actually doing a master session in our Birthing Your Greatness Challenge next week on Tuesday. But without giving away all of the
I'm
secrets.
gave away a lot already. We can keep going. Don't worry. I'll make up some new stuff. Keep going.
Very good. Outside of the branding, what are some other things that you can just kind of quickly have business owners to start thinking about in creating an irresistible brand?
Well, a brand has to be consistent to who you are. Who am I and what do I represent? And how, a brand is you. How do you brand yourself? I'll give you an example. I'm at a really great place on Blaylock. It's called Richmond Ranch Office. It's great. And they put me in one office that didn't have much of a wall and all that. I go, what about over there? Can I go there? I feel like Joe Rogan with the flag in the back, except he had it with brick. I feel like Joe Rogan in here. He goes, oh, you know what? We could put you in there. So it took initiative for me to go, I can have a white wall or I could be in this wall. Yeah. So here I made the initiative to make the brand, even though you don't know that I did this, you just see this great background, but I had a choice of a white wall, and he had this book, but he goes, I could do this, I could do that. I go, well, I'm on an interview. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. And having the vision, and not everybody has it. So that's why you work with a coach or someone that, or some part of your team that has that type of mind. And I'm not, because everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. And what's beautiful about God is that no matter what your weakness is, what your strengths are. It's like kids with autism can count cards, and they could do the ridiculous equations in math. And, I can't add a column together without making 5 mistakes, So I outsource my accounting part, but I do this. So it's important, part of your irresistibility is to create that team of knowing what your strength is. You have to know, but even more important, you have to know what your weaknesses are. And I'm going to contradict what most people say. From my own experience, I only talk about my own experience, my own boots on the ground. I have learned it's a lot easier making myself better in what I know I'm really good at than trying to make myself better what I'm really bad at. Because even if I try real hard and I'm really bad at it, it's just such a little growth. Come in, if I'm really good at something and I put a lot of effort in it, then I'd be really great. Right. And I always refer to sports. There's a guy that shoots a 3-point shot. He's in the corner and he's holding, all he is like this. That's it. But if he can make that 360% of the time, every team in the country wants him. He doesn't have to do this, doesn't have to do that. If he's a 7-footer that can block shots all day, just block shot. So if you can figure out what your strengths are, and sometimes you have to talk to friends and this and that, that's where you should go. Joe Rogan's friends, he used to do martial arts, and he used to make everybody laugh before tournaments. And his friends go, you ought to do stand up. You're really funny. I don't know, but all his friends kept saying, hey, you're really funny. And boom, $100 million contract now.
Wow.
So he found what he's good at, and he didn't deviate from it.
Wow. Wow. And I cannot believe our time went by so quickly. Oh my gosh. It's already
Well, you're such a great host.
but this is really good because those who are sitting here like I am, like, okay, what's next? You guys, we are inviting you to the Birthing Your Greatness Summit. It starts on September the 21st. Ed will be up to bat on September the 22nd. He will be up and talking about the irresistible business, and you guys do not want to miss this. Go ahead and register at bit.ly Birthing Your Greatness Summit.
And let me give a shout out to one more for the location here, Ranch office on Blaylock in Houston, Texas.
Awesome.
I had to say it. They were great to me.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Well, Ed, thank you so much for being such an amazing guest today. I really appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you in the Birthing Your Greatness Summit next week. And I look forward to, I'm pretty sure we're going to work together at some point.
I can't wait.
I can see it
I feel it. I feel it. I feel it.
Really too. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for joining us for today's edition of the ColloborativeU TV. We will see you next week on Monday. We have some amazing guests next week. Stay tuned. And we are out. Peace. Bye-bye.